Welcome, everyone, to the next installment of Orlando Magic Insiders. Dante Marchitelli, Jake Chapman here with you. The Orlando Magic back in action here tonight. They're going to visit the Charlotte Hornets. We'll have it for you at 6:30 on 96.9 The Game and 6:30 on FanDuel Sports Network. But, oh, my goodness, do we have a lot to cover from last night. It feels like, if it's even possible, that a visit from LeBron James and Luka Doncic was the second story of the night, right? The second biggest story as we put probably the greatest player in Magic history into the Magic Hall of Fame. Dwight Howard was inducted as the 13th member into the Hall of Fame. We had the Lakers in the building. And then, oh, by the way, something that nobody told us, and we found out 10 minutes before we went on air, Franz Wagner bobblehead night. Had no idea. We tried to cram that into the telecast as well and get our hands on some Franz Wagner bobbleheads, which we were able to do. But Jake, how do you begin? A great win last night. You take down the Lakers 118-106, combined 62 points from Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero. Unbelievable. You survived 32 from Luka Doncic, who you can't – we might have picked up another foul on Luka. You can't get within 2 miles of that guy without sending him to the free throw line, but that's a story for another day. You're able to survive all of that. You win your second consecutive game. I mean, how do you even begin to encapsulate what happened yesterday?
Yeah, and maybe in hindsight, the most important thing is we finally pumped some juice back into that building, right?
Yes,
It felt like
yes,
the
we did.
beginning of the season, Dante. And obviously, anytime the Lakers are in town, there's going to be a whole bunch of gold in the arena. But it was the largest crowd in Orlando Magic Kia
How about
Center
that?
history,
How about that?
and it was just a special night. I think we all had a sense that it was going to be kind of emotional. You talked about yesterday on the show texting with Dwight, and he was an emotional wreck. And you and I have been to a whole bunch of those induction ceremonies, and that one, I mean, I don't think anybody's ever started crying 5 words into
Oh my
to
goodness.
their
Yes,
induction
exactly. You're
speech.
exactly right.
But it meant so much to him. And I know David and Jeff got a chance to catch up with him on the telecast. I'm sure you did too. We had him for the third quarter. If anybody wanted to listen to the play-by-play of the third quarter of that game, sorry.
It wasn't happening.
But Dwight and I, we caught up and we talked about life and we talked about Magic fans and how special that place was. The house that Dwight built. I mean,
Yeah. Oh, no
I
question.
referred to it on the broadcast all night as that, and so it was really cool. It was certainly, getting him where he belongs. He kept using the terminology. I'm home. I'm back home. This is my city. So it did. It felt like old times, and not the least of which.
Well, did it surprise you, Jake, how much it meant to him?
No, I well,
And I
I
don't, I don't, I
I
don't, I don't take that lightly. But this is 2 months from now, he's going to go into the NBA Hall, the Naismith Hall of Fame, right? I
yep,
mean, or 3 months from now, right? Whenever that news comes out here in a couple of weeks, he's going to go in September. I would have think most likely, right?
yes.
He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. That's going to be. I mean, I think that to me, that's the one where he's going to be tripping over himself and can't speak. But it wasn't. It was. I mean, last night really hit him, and I thought that was incredible. I loved how vulnerable he was. I loved how there was a lot of maturity in his presentation yesterday, which I thought was awesome. And in our conversation on Pod Squad and your conversation with them as well. And I thought it was heartfelt reaction to what yesterday meant to what the city of Orlando meant to him, to what those 8 years here meant to him. I was very impressed by that. And I was not gonna lie to you, I was a little surprised. I knew it meant a lot to him, but man, that really hit home for him.
Vulnerable is a great word because it's not like he came out and said, I regret everything, blah 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 blah. Like he understands that stuff happens. He's not the only person who ever left a franchise under
Sure.
with some
Right.
acrimony attached to it. When you have the high highs of the relationship that the Magic organization, Magic fans, coaching staff, everybody had with Dwight, and then it falls apart, people are going to be hurt
Yeah,
from it.
sure. Sure.
He has grown up. He said numerous times, "I was just a kid."
Yeah.
The first thing he did after thanking his parents was he thanked every single teammate
Yeah.
from his rookie season, which I
That was
thought was
cool.
really really cool.
That was cool.
And
Because
because he knows that
there's a couple people that I wouldn't have thanked, but I get it. But I get it. But he thanked. But that's just me. But that's just me.
we're gonna have to talk off air about that. Um, I I think it was really important to him, obviously because of the negative way that it ended.
Yes, no
But
question.
Dante, I mean, you said yesterday it's been 13 years
I
for
mean, come
crying
on.
out
Can you
loud.
believe that?
And it took 12 for him to even come back and be in the building. And that was last
That's right.
season
That's right.
during game 6. And I made sure I told him both on air and off yesterday that like that was so special to me. Game 6 last year. He and Richard
Oh,
before the fourth quarter.
right.
getting
Incredible.
everybody to stand and cheer. I mean, that was a goosebumps moment,
Well,
and it
and we
kind of
got
came
we
full
got we
circle
got a
last
comment.
night.
We got a comment here, Jake. Right. So T Bam says, as a teenager growing up, cheering on Dwight, but M Raheem felt a lot of healing last night. I think that's what you saw, right, with that game 6 last year with Rashard and Dwight, what you're
Totally.
talking about, and then it continued on last night.
Yeah, you put that stuff to bed. We talked about it yesterday on the show. We have focused on the negative things for a long time
Yes,
now,
yes, yes.
and there were so many positive things in his time here, and we fully understand if Magic fans still hold a grudge. I mean,
No
nobody
question.
likes
No question.
for situations to end the way that they did, but that's the nature of life, and that's certainly the nature of professional sports. So it was really cool, and obviously much better to get a win against
Yes,
LeBron,
yes.
against Luca. But you're right, it was secondary last night, and it wasn't lost on me that as we're enshrining the greatest player in our franchise's history, we're watching two guys who could bring us back to that level because we
Yeah.
had both of
Oh,
them on their A game last night, and it's something special when you get 30 points from both Paolo and Franz like we did last night. So it was, I hesitate to call it a perfect night, but that was pretty darn cool last night. And not to mention the Franz Wagner bobblehead, as
Franz
as you
Wagner bobblehead, and
throw
by the
that on
way,
top.
and then Steve Francis is in the building, and then we got former Magic players all over the place. I mean, JJ Redick is in the building, right? Head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, spent 6 years with Dwight. Mentioned how much of a superstar he was with his time here. So yeah, that it just felt, and we will break down the Laker game in the next segment. We'll preview tonight's game against the Charlotte Hornets, which is a big one. Last night's victory to me is null and void if you go to Charlotte tonight and lose. If you come out and lay an egg and roll over against Charlotte, then it it loses its luster, that victory that you had last night. So you got to keep it going here in Charlotte, and that's not taking anything away from Charlotte, but you have to beat the teams beneath you in the standings. But I think last night did so much good, and I applaud the DeVos family because that's the one that takes the biggest hit, right? When Dwight Howard, your superstar, says that he wants out and wants to be traded, it's the fan base that is hit. It's ownership, it's the coach that's at the time, it's the general manager. All of those things are affected when your superstar wants out. But to say, yeah, it's been long enough, and you start reading the accolades and what he did, first ever in NBA history to win 3 consecutive Defensive Player of the Year awards, 5-time first team All NBA. I mean, the list goes on and on. 6-time All-Star, twice he led all All-Star voters. I think about that, right? We know Giannis and Steph Curry and LeBron. That was Dwight twice, 2 years in a row. He did it right here in Orlando. He was the leading vote getter in the All-Star game back-to-back years. And all of the accolades that continue, leads the organization in points and rebounds and blocks. I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer, and all of those reasons are why I think he's going to be in the Naismith Hall of Fame coming up here in September as well. And again, we'll get that announcement here next week. But he has been named as one of the finalists. But I just applaud everybody who had a hand in it because we didn't wait 30 years like Shaq. We did it when the time was right. This was time to bring him back. If he retires here officially, then that's even better. But with the Basketball Hall of Fame coming, and with him not having played in the NBA for a couple of years, this was the perfect time to do it.
I don't know about you, but I don't like going through life with negative feelings towards people, especially people that you were that close with at some point. Like
Yeah.
at some point,
Yeah,
you
right.
just you
Exactly.
got to bury the hatchet. Like, I fully understand it. Like nobody's perfect, and there were a lot of mistakes made on either side back then. But it was so long ago now. And when you look at the record books, like it's a no-brainer. That's the greatest player in our franchise's
There's
history,
no question. There's no
bar
question.
none. And so certainly, we understand why it took that long. I don't think anybody expected 2018 to welcome to welcome back Dwight video to hit at the end of the first quarter, but the timing was right. It was special. I think it was very unique. And we do have a comment in asking about whether or not it was a coincidence that it happened against Los Angeles. I think it sort of was. I think the timing, how people's schedules work. It is what it is. You make the decision and then you say it works out for that night. And obviously you got promotions
That was
and
the only
everybody's
day. That was the only day, honestly, that fit into his schedule. He's got a lot
right.
happening, and that was the only. So no, it just happened to be L.A. You're exactly right. What
Exactly.
about this comment that I blame Stan Van Gundy for Dwight leaving? I mean, can we how ridiculous is that? I mean, can we just move on from that? I mean, that is
I'll tell you
Dwight,
somebody
how
who
many
doesn't
times?
blame Stan Van Gundy for Dwight leaving.
How many?
Dwight. It's, it's, he said hit point
Or
blank. He
anybody,
said,
or anybody
without
who was
Stan,
even
there is no
remotely
Dwight.
associated with that team. Exactly. How many times did he say that? Without Stan, there's no Dwight. You
Yep.
are exactly right. So it was a terrific night. Let bygones be bygones. We understand there are people that are going to have hard feelings, and you're entitled to that. You are absolutely entitled to that, and you can get over it on your time. If you do, that's totally fine. But at some point you have to embrace the greatest player in your franchise history. And to do that last night and see what it meant to him. And now hopefully he's around more, bring him back during the playoffs. And hopefully he's a part of this. You get back to the finals at some point with Paolo and Franz and you have Dwight involved. I mean, only good can come from this. So we're excited about how it went last night. And kudos to Dwight. It meant a lot to him. He was prepared with his speech and it was heartfelt. And I just thought it was a terrific night. And oh, by the way, you needed to win that basketball game, and you did. And you took down Luka Doncic and LeBron James, and that was just a special victory, which we will discuss here next on Magic Insiders. Calling all Magic fans, now is the time to place your deposit for the 25-26 season tickets. Be among the first in line to access the best seats. As a season ticket holder, you'll enjoy tons of benefits, including a dedicated line for Kia Center on game days, a discount on concession stands, and special season ticket holder events. So many benefits to take advantage of. To place a deposit and learn more, visit orlandomagic.com/season tickets. We are breaking down last night's victory and previewing tonight's game against Charlotte when we return in a moment. And welcome back, everyone. It is Magic Insiders. Great to have you with us. Always appreciate you on every Tuesday. We try to do it whether we're in the studio or do it remotely. If I'm traveling, which will be the case here in a couple of weeks as the Magic close out their season. No, this thing gets very interesting here down the stretch, Jake. And I don't want to take too much time on this, but give me a minute. Your thoughts or so. There's a scenario with 10 games left, and the Magic now a game and a half behind Atlanta for that 7th spot in the East, that the Magic could play that final game in Atlanta that could determine everything. Game 82, Brian Hill said it last night on the telecast, that game is going to mean everything, whether we have 7 or 8, in his opinion. Then there's a scenario where you may play that game in Atlanta, and if you lose, you may have to stay there and turn around and do the play-in game 2 days later. I mean, this is crazy how tight this is here down the stretch.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun couple weeks, and certainly a pressure packed couple weeks. I mean, you play Atlanta, it's April 8th, and then again on Sunday, April 13th. So 2 of the last 4 games of the season are against the Hawks team that you're right now a game and a half behind after tonight. Take care of business against Charlotte. We're talking about a game behind. I didn't check. Did the Hawks don't play tonight, do they? I don't believe so.
No, they do not. They do not. The only 2 games that can help us are, which, by the way, Chicago is just absolutely rolling right now. I mean,
Yes.
it's unbelievable what they've got going on. But you have Jimmy Butler making his return to Miami here tonight, and I, even with all of the drama that he caused, I still find myself rooting for Golden. Even that can't bring me to root for the Heat. And if there was ever a scenario where I wanted somebody to lose, it'd be Jimmy Butler going back to his former team. And even that doesn't allow me to root for the Miami Heat. Is that bad? I mean, that's unbelievable.
No, that's fair. Warriors win, but Jimmy goes 0 for 12 or something like that. And even that I think would be satisfying for Heat fans. D, I believe, unless I'm looking wrong, the Hawks do play tonight. They're at Houston.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You are exactly right.
So
yes,
there you go. So I mean, it could be a half game back by the end of tonight. We know how well Houston's been playing. They had their win streak snapped, but you're right. I mean, I don't know if at the beginning of the season if we anticipated fighting for a play-in bid with the Atlanta Hawks, or at the very least for the 7 versus the 8 seed, but that's what it is. And so we're going to become very familiar with those Atlanta Hawks over the next couple of weeks. And you're right. I mean, it's shaping up. Barring major moves, it's either going to be the 7 seed or the 8 seed. And we'll be dealing with those Atlanta Hawks. So, but you and I can scoreboard watch a little bit.
Yes.
I agree 1,000,000%. Coach Mosley said it last night after the game. None of this matters if you go and you lose to a Charlotte Hornets team.
Correct.
That since the All-Star break, Dante has a net rating of minus 15.3. They're by far the worst team in the league. Post All-Star break. The next worst is Philadelphia, and they're like at 11 or minus 11 or something like that. So this is it's Charlotte. You want to talk about playing out the string on a season? That's what the Hornets are doing. With that said, we know they've got guys who can fill it up. We know they're going to try try to hang 130 on you. And so we got to make sure we go out play Magic basketball tonight. Defend, 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 rebound, play with toughness, and get out of there with a dub.
Well, they have that LaMelo Ball guy, and they have Miles Bridges. They have two guys that can score, and those are guys that can play spoiler here down the stretch. No question about it. Rome, we see, with the way Paolo has been playing lately, I'm not worried about any scenario. So you like that, right? Either scenario with Atlanta or with Atlanta, or certainly could be Miami, could be whoever here down the stretch. And then Duvall, yes, congrats to D12. We like that. And Jay Curve, we always see you. Will Dawson, terrific job as always. And Duvall, you're right. We got to win that one tonight against Charlotte. So, but before we look at Charlotte, Jake, we'd be remiss if we didn't look back at that victory last night. I mean, you're looking at two of the all-time greatest to ever play the game, right? When it's all said and done, maybe the greatest, and LeBron James is in the building, and he's having a good game, and he's rolling. He gets you 24 last night, and then you have Luka Doncic, who I think when it's all said and done, he's going to be in the conversation, right? Top 5 greatest players of all time. I think he is the guy that I would give the basketball to. Anyone not named Paulo or Franz in the NBA, I would give him the basketball if I'm trying to win a basketball game, right? I think he's that impactful. You're able to overcome that because of Paulo and Franz. I mean, for the 4th time in their career, they get 30 points in the same game. 3rd time this year. You started with Paulo, who gets you 18 in the first half, and he was just absolutely on a mission. Where he was getting to his spots, knocking down jumpers, unbelievable. When he starts the game, knocking down the 3 ball, just watch out. And then Franz Wagner, the finisher, and what he did in the 4th quarter to put this thing away. You outscore him in the 3rd quarter. That's where you were able to pull away in this contest. 34-18. The 3rd quarter has been a problem. You knock down 15 threes. Paulo and Franz are a problem, Jake, and they're a problem the way they're playing right now. And if you just get any contributions from anyone else, which is what you had last night, 17 for Anthony Black, and you get another 9 for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Corey Joseph continues to play well. Then you're dangerous, and that's what we saw last night with Paulo and Franz.
Corey Joseph is playing like 21 minutes a game in the month of March. He's turned the ball over 3 times the entire month of March. It's incredible. He'll make his 7th start tonight. We assume. Cole, that toe's still bugging him. Or I think actually it might be his 8th start, 7th start. How about Anthony Black squawking at the King last night? I know you had an up close seat for that. That was incredible.
That I don't like.
Come on.
That I don't like. Yeah, I'll disagree on that one. But you know what? It was LeBron who started it. He said something to him.
That's what I'm saying.
And Anthony Black laughed back at him. It was a funny moment. They both were laughing at the end of it. But I'm pretty sure LeBron James looked and said something along the lines of "Welcome to the NBA" kind of thing after he just scored on him in the post. But AB's not impressed. He didn't back down from him, which was impressive. Yes,
he might have thrown a well-timed shoulder into LeBron's massive shoulders as he's backing back down the court. No, okay. The squawking is one thing.
Yeah, I don't want Jet Howard yelling at Ed Malloy, and I don't want Anthony Black yelling at LeBron James. I don't want to. It's like Nick Anderson says, "You guys are yelling at Michael Jordan. I'm the one that's got to guard him." Like, let's take.
That's a good point.
Yeah, exactly. But I love the confidence, no question about it. Oh, he might have. Sorry, we apologize. We'll get Jake back as soon as we get his internet back up and running. But we appreciate your questions and your comments as always. Terrific. Keep it rolling. And I like this coming in about Mac McClung. Maybe Mac McClung gets an opportunity. Will, hey, you never know. He might get an opportunity here tonight, and we'll go from there. But let's look at the injury report. Who's in, who's out. So for tonight's game against the Charlotte Hornets, as you continue to build off of last night's win against LA, you're trying to win 3 consecutive games, which has not happened since before Christmas for this Orlando Magic team. So you got an opportunity to do that tonight. Doubtful Cole Anthony, probably not going to see him again tonight. Trevelin Queen is questionable. Jalen Suggs, Ethan Thompson, and Mo Wagner are all out, but Mac McClung will be available, and hopefully Trevelin Queen is able to go as well. So that's a good sign. Maybe he gets an opportunity here yet again. For the Charlotte Hornets, Damian Baugh is out. You have Trey Mann is out. Brandon Miller is out. Season-ending surgery here for him. Josh Okogie is questionable, and Grant Williams is out for the Charlotte Hornets here tonight in a game that's critical for this Orlando Magic team as they close out their season series with Charlotte and a chance to go 4-0. And these are division games, which are huge here down the stretch, because if you finish in a tie with the Atlanta Hawks and you're able to split that season series 2 games apiece, it's going to come down to division tiebreaker And that's why the win in Washington was huge on Friday, and that's why this one is huge here tonight against Charlotte. So appreciate your comments. You can send them all back in. Yeah, you're right. M. Raheem, AB didn't back down from LeBron James, and you do love that. You don't want to poke the bear. You don't want to be the one that instigates that back and forth with LeBron James. But yeah, if he's going to say something to you and you don't back down, you certainly appreciate that from the King. No question about it. Anthony Black was ready to go from there. Yeah, we're going solo here, but that's fine. We're going to take your comments as we close it out. And let me see, Brandon Gray. So Brandon Gray, we have some history. We used to do a show, Magic Overtime, with Dante and Galante, and Brandon Gray was a big part of that. Uh, yeah, he was. Yes, that's that Brandon Gray, our producer Jason Dewberry, and yeah, that's that one. And he would, aspiring musician, he'd come up with a song or a rap or something that pertained to our guest that we had at the time, and it was terrific. He was creating viral videos for us before there was such a thing as viral videos. So, yes, he knows if we need to kill some time, I could turn around and go through my card collection here behind me. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that, Brandon. And I love that he just threw it out there, by the way, he threw it out there for me to grab a Franz Wagner bobblehead last night and bring it to Charlotte, where he can get the game, where he can come to the game tonight and pick it up from me. But I'm not doing that. Luis Rosario, yeah, Charlotte has given up already, and you're going to be heading to the game. So that's great. We hope that you can cheer on the Magic. You say that, but tanking is done at the front office level. And when teams tank, you're putting players out there that you think they'll give you the best opportunity to win. But those players are trying to win the basketball game. That coach is trying to win the basketball game. So you can say what you want about the direction that Charlotte is heading. But these games are terrifying if you are an NBA head coach because they're trap games. You can't overlook it. We're coming in there on a back-to-back. They didn't play yesterday. So you're coming in after an emotional day with Dwight Howard, a victory over the Los Angeles Lakers. And then you have to come in and find a way to make sure you don't have a letdown against the Charlotte Hornets. So yeah, we can look at their record and you can be concerned, but you think it's going to be a walk in the park. But these are the games that are scary for an NBA head coach. And then Brandon Gray says, "I was worried AB was going to do what LeBron." Yeah, I know you're worried about the conversation that these guys are having on the floor. Ty Jerome fires up Paolo Banchero, and he's making the point, Jake. And this is what you're concerned about. You're worried that Anthony Black is going to do to LeBron what Ty Jerome did to Paolo Banchero. Thankfully, that didn't happen. But from my vantage point, LeBron made the big move, scored on him in the post, kind of made a little chuckle, you're welcome kind of thing. Your grandkids will get a kick out of that one day, that kind of a gesture. And AB just laughed at it. I thought it was great. Yeah, we got you. I got you. Can you hear us? Yeah, welcome back. You just decide, and not all of us can just duck out in the middle of the show, but there's nothing wrong with that. But take that is amazing. Real quick, Brandon Ross has a comment here. Do you think it's coincidence that the team started to play better now that P5 is feeling better, right? Now that he's back, he got himself back in peak physical fitness since the injury that didn't allow that to happen. Now he's feeling great. I mean, there's probably no coincidence the way we're playing right now.
We're also shooting the ball well from the perimeter, and I think that it ties back to Paulo. Look, Paulo, when you talk about getting in shape, it's when you have that long of a layoff, it's about getting your conditioning back right, and he said this himself. But it's also about getting into a rhythm and just sort of understanding night to night what you're seeing and the easiest ways to exploit that. And he's seeing the kitchen sink right now. He's
Yes,
throwing
yes.
doubles with obviously Houston and the Lakers started the second half in his own last night. And so it's a lot for Paulo and Franz, who are still young players, mind you, to be processing and diagnosing in the moment. And, Paulo Banchero is not just playing all-star caliber basketball right now. He's playing MVP caliber basketball right now. Like
Yes, he
he is
is.
on a different level. And then I think that just makes things a lot easier on his teammates. Obviously, there's gonna be a bit of an adjustment, especially just think about the season that Franz has had. Last time we saw that
Oh my
Lakers
goodness.
team, Franz was the man. It was like, go take 35 shots if you want to, because you're our guy and you're who we need. And obviously he came through in that game in Los Angeles against a completely different Lakers team. Now, Paolo, it makes sense for Paolo to have the ball in his hands the way that he's playing. And Franz is going to have to kind of pick his spots, but obviously he was able to exploit the weak spots of the Lakers defense last night. I don't know. I love Luka Doncic, but when he does that stuff where he just stands there and doesn't defend and walks back down the floor, I don't know how that doesn't impact his teammates. I mean, that Lakers team was playing great defense for about 10 games after Luka arrived. And now that thing's gone sideways. And I don't want to make this, Lakers insiders, but JJ's got some work to do, because all of a sudden I'm sitting there going, okay, maybe Nico Harrison had a point last night.
Oh my goodness. You know what he does for his defense? You know what Luka does for his defense? 32, 10, and 9. That's what he does for his defense.
Okay.
32, 10, and 9.
All right.
I can work with that. If that's what he's going to give you every night, you find a way to hide him defensively, and that's what JJ will do. Yeah, there's times but how about the Luka effect? He was diving and taking guys out at the legs, and that ended up being out of bounds on us. Right? He body checked Paolo Banchero and they didn't call it. Like all the things that he does on the floor that he gets away with, and then if you get near him, you send him to the free throw line.
It feels like Houston Harden. It feels like Houston
Harden.
Yes, it does.
Right? Yes, it does. That's exactly right. Yeah. That's your defense. That's your defense.
That part was frustrating. Caleb Houston. There were a couple plays where I'm like, and Wendell, and I thought Wendell, by the way, was absolutely the unsung hero last night. His defense was fantastic,
terrific defense.
And he brought it last night. And Coach Mosley had a great game plan, pre-switch and stuff, and anticipating what was coming. That was those parts won't get talked about enough because of everything else going on last night. But there were a couple of Caleb Houston. I'm going, that's perfect defense. Like you were right there. And Luke is he's just so good at. I mean, if you take away a little bit of his airspace, he's jumping into you, he's foul hunting. So give him credit. But still, that Lakers team, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see coming down the stretch, because they're relatively healthy right now. They are healthy.
Oh yeah.
And they've been scuffling a little bit as of late.
They certainly have. But what Luka said to Jamal Mosley when Caleb Houston came into the game and guarded Luka is something that can never be repeated. So that is that is how that was viewed by Luka. And I thought that was going to ignite him. He went through a stretch where he had 11 straight points. And I think him feeling maybe a little bit disrespected with that defensive assignment, I think might have sparked that. But that's a great back and forth with him and Jamal Mosley. And it's just great that the Magic are able to pull that out. You sweep the Los Angeles Lakers for the first time since the 18-19 season. So a lot to be excited about. And I will close with this. How about this? How about Vikram showing up as we're closing out the show saying, good morning, fellas. Vikram, you like that?
Hey, buddy.
I'm here for a good time, and and we're closing it out. So we appreciate you tuning in, but we'll have to get you a little earlier next time. We appreciate everyone that tunes in all the time here on Magic Insiders, and we'll get you every Tuesday at 11 o'clock right here. We'll do this live. We love interacting with all of you, and enjoy this, Magic fans. Last night was special. You got Dwight Howard back in the building. You put your best player into the Magic Hall of Fame. You've embraced him. He's going to be a part of this thing moving forward. And the two guys, Jake, that you mentioned, Paolo and Franz, are eventually going to bring you back to where Shaq and Dwight took you, right? I mean, that's the most exciting.
Real quick, did you address the nickname question while I was gone?
I did not see that.
Frollo. How do we feel about Frollo?
Paolo and Franz together? Well, similar to what Luka told Jamal, probably is how I feel about that. But I don't mind that. We'll workshop that and keep sending them in and see what we can do. We do need a nickname, and it's tough because there are, we've heard them all, right? We've heard a lot of them. But
Boogie and the Beast. How do you feel about Boogie and the Beast?
Yeah, I don't love that. I don't either. I don't love that.
No.
If Wendell, they call the humble beast, so maybe you can make a stretch if you're talking about Boogie.
And Goga's the Georgian Beast.
Georgian Beast. I love Boogie. I don't ever use it, but I think that's a great nickname. But
I use it all the time.
That's
Franchero.
Franchero's great.
Sounds like a chip dip.
Francaro. It would have to be Francaro. Yeah, Francaro has potential.
Francaro. I think I read it wrong. But...
Bronze. You like bronze?
All right. All right.
We will.
Get us out of here. We've
Yeah,
gone so far
bronze.
off the rails. Oh my goodness.
Bronze pronounced, but pronounced bronze.
There you go. Yes,
All
bro.
right, we're done. That'll
Yeah.
do it for this edition of Magic Insiders. This is what we enjoy, though. This is what makes it fun. So we'll do it again. We'll do it again here. Workshop those, Vikram. Get on a little earlier, but we love having you. But we want you here for the entire show, 11 o'clock, and let's come with some solid nicknames for next week, and we'll continue to go from there. That'll do it. That'll do it for Jonte here on Magic Insiders. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next time here on Magic YouTube channel.